Bucky Brooks wrote an article recently naming his top 8 Super Bowl windows. This is the list of the 8 Super Bowl contenders that he had. Eagles having the biggest one, then Lions, Chiefs, Ravens, Packers, Chargers, Commanders, Texans. There's a couple that are missing here, but I want to get your opinion. Do you agree or disagree with Bucky Brooks' list of Super Bowl windows?
I mostly disagree with it, I must say. Let's just go through it here. Put the list back up there.
Sure.
Okay, so the Eagles, yeah, I mean, they're bringing back all their players. They're happy. They won the Super Bowl. Last time they won the Super Bowl, they went 9-8 the following season. But I think giving most of their players back, I agree with the Eagles being in the number 1 spot here. The Lions, I'm not sure you can put them at number 2. I mean, they have big questions at offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. They're both brand new, and those coaches were very important to the Lions' success. Will Hutchinson and McNeil return to form? That's a big question mark. We don't know that, but if they do, then that helps a lot. And I do think they'll be a good team. But do they rank number 2 to go to the as a possibility of going to the Super Bowl? I think that's a question mark. The Chiefs, Mahomes has to return to Super Bowl form and play better in the season. He had his worst season this year. Their running game is terrible. Their offensive line is terrible. They have to work on that. Kelsey's old. He may not even come back. The receiver core is questionable. I think a lot of question marks for the Chiefs. I'm not sure I'd put them at number 3. The Ravens, I think at 4, that's very reasonable. They actually could be ranked higher than that, I think.
Higher?
Henry is coming back.
Ooh.
Lamar is going to be, he's still in his prime. They have to make less mistakes in the playoffs if they're going to go far. And I think that's one thing that holds them back a little bit here. They haven't been that successful in the playoffs recently. The Packers, Jordan Love, he didn't play as well this year as he did down the stretch last year. He was great, and that's why he got this giant contract too.
Yep.
And do they need a wide receiver 1? Maybe that would help. They have the youngest team in the NFL still. That might be a little bit of a problem for them. They have great coaching, and I do think they should be in the discussion. At number 5, I'm not so sure. The Chargers, I'm a little surprised that they're here given some of the teams that aren't. They played poorly against the Texans. They were terrible against the Texans. Justin Herbert, awful. They need more help at wide receiver. I mean, come on. Now, they have McConkey, who's great and is going to have a nice career, I think. But they got to have somebody else. Quentin Johnson, he can't hang on to the ball. They have to find a much better wide receiver if you're going to have him in this discussion. Dobbins may leave too. He's a free agent, so the running back situation's a question mark. The Commanders at number 7, come on, they went to the NFC Championship game last year, and they have Jaden Daniels, who was the Rookie of the Year, could have been in the MVP discussion. They need another top wide. If the Commanders are going to go get another top wide receiver, maybe Cooper Kupp. They have $75 million worth of cap space, so they can improve themselves. I think they should be ranked higher than number 7. The Texans, they need another elite wide receiver, too. Are they going to try to bring Diggs back? I doubt it. He had the ACL injury. They need someone to complement Collins. Tank Dell is probably not going to be in there. He dislocated his kneecap. So, his 8 list, I think that there's some teams on here that should be replaced by, how about the Buffalo Bills?
That's what I was
How come they're not on this list? I mean, the Bills, they made it to the game against the Chiefs.
AFC Championship game, yeah.
Yeah, AFC Championship game. And they weren't even picked. That there was a doubts that they would even make the playoffs because they were seen as a rebuilding year.
Right.
And look what they did. And they had a bunch of young players that really stepped up who will be even better next year. And they've got the draft to pick up a few more. So I see the Bills should be on this list. How about the Broncos? Huh? They made the playoffs last year.
Super Bowl window, though?
The Knicks is, I think, you're talking 8 teams, right?
Yeah.
That be in the window?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't the Broncos be in the window?
I'm not disagreeing with you.
I
would take them over the Houston Texans.
Yeah. So, and Knicks is going to have another year under his belt. So I think, everything looks good and they have a great defense. I think the Broncos should be on the list. The Steelers, hey, they made the playoffs last year. Why wouldn't the Broncos be in the window? I'm not disagreeing with you. I would take them over the Houston Texans. Yeah. So, and Knicks is going to have another year under his belt. So I think, everything looks good for and they have a great defense. I think the Broncos should be on the list. The Steelers, Hey, they make the playoffs every year. They make the playoffs every year. If they go my route and they bring Justin Fields to be their quarterback and they emphasize the run, they go get a player like Deebo Samuels to be a wide receiver to complement Pickens, I think the Steelers should be on the list. And how about in the NFC?
Oh, this is the AFC.
This is all AFC.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
No, it's not. This has got the Packers on. This is eight teams Super Bowl.
You were on the AFC. My fault.
That's my AFC. Those 3 teams.
Yeah.
And how about the Vikings? The Vikings aren't on this list.
Oh, come on.
Come on. How come the Vikings aren't on this list?
I can tell you why.
They only lost a couple of games last year, and their prospects still look very good. They've hit the draft. They're going to pick up some more players. And they have a great defense. They have a great defensive coordinator. So I don't know why they're not on the list. The Rams are not on the list.
They're about to lose everybody.
I don't think so. They're going to lose
Cooper
everybody.
Kupp and Matt Stafford apparently.
I don't know. Matt Stafford, we don't know what's going to happen with him.
That's true.
How about the Buccaneers?
Oh.
How come they're not on the list? They made, I'm talking about Super Bowl window, 8 teams.
Right.
How come the Buccaneers aren't on the list?
So, so is that it? Do you have another team?
Those are my teams.
You're actually forgetting a team, actually, that I have. Actually, you're forgetting 2 teams, actually.
Oh.
So based on, you have 6 teams that
aren't on the list.
Right. So here's my question. Would any of those teams replace any of these 8?
Yes.
So give me your 8 Super Bowl windows then. You don't need to do it in numerical order. Just give me a list of 8 teams that have the biggest Super Bowl window.
I got the Eagles.
Okay.
I got the Lions.
Okay.
I got the Chiefs, and I got the Ravens.
So
I think the other 4, and I have the Commanders. Okay. The other 3 I have question marks about, and I replaced them with the Bills.
Okay.
The Broncos and the Vikings. Those would be the 3 I would replace them with.
Got it. So that's the new one. Okay. You're forgetting about 2 teams. One AFC, one NFC. So for me, yes, I actually disagree with this entirely. I actually think just based on luck, drop the Ravens down a little bit. Just drop them down. Because it seems like whenever they get to the playoffs, something bad happens, like drops, turnovers, play calling all of a sudden goes completely against what they normally do and succeed at. Check last year's AFC Championship game. They're the number 1 running team for several years on end with Greg Roman. They were still the number 1 or close to the number 1 running team first year with Todd Monken. I'll fact check that really quickly so nobody in the comments comes after me. They were the number 1 running team last year, and what did they do? They focused way on the pass instead of the run against the Chiefs defense that wasn't good against the run. The running backs ran it, I think, 6 times. The play calling sometimes doesn't make a lot of sense when it comes to the Baltimore Ravens in key games. So for that reason, I'm not saying that they'll never be able to, although I did predict Lamar never wins a Super Bowl. They should come down at least for the Super Bowl window, just because something always happens in the playoffs. Something always does. Packers, they're still a very young team. They've only won, they've made it to the playoffs back-to-back years, or I'm pretty sure they made it this past year, but they did. But you're still too young, too inexperienced to get over the hump, and your wide receiver core is not as dominant as it could be. So for that reason, I kind of agree with you there. The Chargers. There's a reason why there's a term called chargering. Something always tends to go very poorly in some key moments, like the past 2 playoff games, where the opening drive for the Texans, they fumble. You get it on the Texans' 33-yard line. You move, I think, a grand total of like 11 yards. It's terrible. You can't have that happen. So you need more talent anyway. The Commanders should be in the top 4. With a rookie quarterback and a roster that went 4-13, that you've completely changed in the first year to go 12-5. You make the NFC Championship game, and you're not even in the top 4 of teams. So I think you need to be much higher if you're the Commanders. The Texans are out of it. You're in the worst division in football. Yes, C.J. Stroud made the playoffs twice and won a playoff game twice. But you have currently no great offensive line. Your wide receiver core didn't gel nicely. Your defense was hit or miss, and then late in the season, it was a hit. The sacks started to pick up. Joe Mixon is a nice piece, but there's been some issues there, and C.J. Stroud just did a sophomore slump. So will he rebound? Potentially. So my 2 teams, besides the Bills, because I do think they deserve to be a part of this, is the San Francisco 49ers. Are we sure that when CMC gets healthy, if they keep Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk comes back. What are you coming Brandon Ayuk for? Brandon Ayuk comes back, and everybody's healthy again. Who says they can't? Who says they shouldn't be at least in the window? I'm not saying they're knocking on the door. I'm saying they're looking through the window.
No,
and last one. If somehow they get it right, and I want your reaction for this one. If they just get it right, Cincinnati Bengals.
Okay, well, I agree with Cincinnati. I should have had them on my list. I don't agree with San Francisco, but there's too many ifs in there. You put so many ifs. Debo's gone.
First of all,
Debo is gone.
Well, first of all,
he's going to be
Brandon
traded.
Ayuk's under contract.
Brandon Ayuk has got a bad knee injury. He's not going to come back in week. It may take him till week 12 to get back.
I don't think it's going to be that long.
It's going to be a while. And the other players, the other wide receivers are very young.
Ricky Pearsall, that's true. Yeah. That's true.
Jennings is young as well.
CMC,
CMC is
having Achilles tendonitis in both your legs. That's an issue.
Okay, and he's got a lot of mileage on those legs too. I think he's over the hill now.
Well, people keep talking about the MVP who could have been in Brock Purdy. Show me.
You know what? I still think he'd be a good player. He's not a player that can carry that you should count on to carry you.
Thank you. That was my whole argument last year. I see one. The Steelers, there is no way because they haven't won a playoff game in like 8 years. And it's the same rinse and repeat process. Mike Tomlin focuses on heavy defense. And when the defense is not if, but when the defense finally gets tired because it's a human thing.
So who do you replace these teams with? What are you going to go with?
The
Bills. Don't you think the Bills should be on this list?
Here's what I'll do. Swap out Denver and Minnesota because Minnesota is going to have either J.J. McCarthy, Daniel Jones, or Sam Darnold at quarterback. None of those quarterbacks are going to lead you to the Super Bowl. None of them will probably get you to the NFC Championship game. Denver.
You don't think they'd be better than the Texans or the Green Bay?
Well, I'm just taking I'm doing it now. I'm saying why Minnesota and Denver, they're not going to be in the Super Bowl window yet. Denver needs a better running game. They need a better tight end situation, and they need another wide receiver to help out Cortland Sutton.
You don't think Denver's better than the Texans?
Because I'm replacing the 49ers and the Bengals in their place.
Okay.
I agree with Buffalo should be in there. That's what you agree on.
What are your 8 then?
So I have the exact same list as you where it comes to Philly, Detroit, KC, Baltimore, Washington, Buffalo. I'm taking out Denver. I'm taking out your Minnesota Vikings. I'm putting the Cincinnati Bengals and the San Francisco 49ers in place of them. Denver, was I not the biggest Bo Nix fan on this show? Probably in the vast amounts of sports media before the season started, I was a big Bo Nix fan. They need a better running back situation. They were not an effective running team. They need a better tight end situation. And you love Marvin Mims, and I agree with you. He made some big plays, including Vele as well. He also made a couple big plays. But you need another difference maker, I want to say, at the wide receiver position, which Deebo Samuel could be. Chris Godwin would be a beautiful piece. Because I think right now, T. Higgins and Chris Godwin, they're wide receiver ones, but in situations where they have to be the wide receiver two. Because Chris Godwin's not better than Mike Evans. T. Higgins is not better than Jamar Chase. Deebo Samuel, he's an interesting piece because he's that utility receiver where he could play wide receiver. He could take the ball out of the backfield and stuff like that. He's a nice little piece to have. So for me, who I'm replacing, I'm taking the chart. Oh, that's interesting. Taking the Packers and the Texans out. Actually, I'm taking all 3 out. I'm taking the Chargers, the Packers, and the Texans. They're all out.
Okay, and who?
Because right now the Chargers, their defense was good. But you had trouble stopping the run. We just saw Lamar Jackson.
I think the Chargers' defense is going to be tougher. The Bosa is a question mark, and
Khalil Mack currently is not even on the roster.
Mack is probably not going to play for them.
Right. So that could change.
Yeah, and Justin Herbert to me is a little bit of a question mark.
I agree. That's why I said he moved from an A- to like a B- in my mind.
But part of it, the problem there is his wide receiver core. If they have a much better wide receiver core, that will help him some. But he made some very bad decisions in that playoff.
I agree. I would also say, though, I think he's going to be not really effective next year either. I hate Greg Roman as an offensive coordinator. Because if you don't have a good running game, you're screwed. I brought up the stat a while ago. His offenses were bottom of the league when you didn't have an effective running game. The only 3 losses that the 49ers had when they went 13-3, I think during their Super Bowl run with Colin Kaepernick, was when they rushed for under 100 yards. That's how Greg Roman gets the success. If you could run for 100 yards or more, you'll have success. But if you don't have an effective running game, you lose football games. That's scheme. That's Greg Roman. Think about this. The reason why we didn't believe Lamar Jackson was a competent pocket passer was because his passing game never developed because Greg Roman focused on running the damn ball all the time, which made Lamar Jackson shine because he was the insane dual threat quarterback and whatnot. But Greg Roman being Justin Herbert's offense coordinator, I think is a massive detriment to the team.
I still want to know, what is your list?
So my list is the exact same thing as yours when it comes to Philly, Detroit, KC, Baltimore, Washington, Buffalo. Okay. That's it. You have Denver, Minnesota. I don't. I have Cincinnati and the 49ers in.
Okay.
I agree with you, though. Chargers they don't have a window yet. They still have too many pieces that need to move around. The Packers don't have the experience of the youngest team in the NFL, and the Houston Texans also have a lot of moving pieces that they need.
Wide receivers problem there.
Well, I would say that Stephon Diggs, he might be gone. I'm sure he's open to return, but he was on a 1-year deal.
Why would you pick him up again?
He got hurt early in the year.
He's got an attitude, and he's on one wheel. I would say goodbye to him. Let him go to free agents.
So then currently, if Tank Dell is still banged up by week 1, you're stuck with Nico Collins. And I think
go get Cooper Kupp. You could go get him.
That's not bad. Yeah. That's not bad. Oh, I think Washington may also inquire about him.
Oh, sure, they should.
Patriots may inquire about him.
The Washington should go after Debo. Debo's gone, Nate. He's not going to be. He's not going to be there. He already asked for a trade.
Oh,
we went over this.
I agree.
And it makes sense for him to be gone there for both the team and him.
We said during the season that he was probably going to be either released or traded. But
he had a poor season. He didn't have a very good season.
I mean, he was really their only major threat with CMC being down, Ayuk gone, Ricky Pearsall being the wide receiver 2 after getting shot and then coming back, about a quarter way through the season.
Jennings had a good year.
He had some insane games this year. He's also a great receiver for him. So, and that adds to my point. You have Juwan Jennings as well.
I think Cincinnati. Cincinnati should be on the list. The 49ers, maybe. I think they're on a marginal.
So then if you think Cincinnati should be on the list, out of Denver and Minnesota, who are you swapping? Okay, if Cincinnati was on your list, would they be including your 8?
I would have after hearing your analysis, I think I would put, I would take the Chargers off, and I would take the Texans off.
Well, you already have those.
Green Bay off, and I would go with the Bills, the Cincinnati, and
Denver, Minnesota is the last 2 you got.
And I would say the Vikings instead of the 49ers.
Interesting. So you're trusting J.J. McCarthy / Sam Darnold / Daniel Jones to make it, or to at least make the Vikings Super Bowl contenders.
O'Connell is hands away to make the quarterback play well, right? They only lost 2 games. What they was
3 games.
3 games last year.
And then in the first playoff game,
and Sam Darnold was their quarterback, who is a journeyman, right? Right, and he had poor success elsewhere.
Well, do we remember how this playoff game ended up? Was it 9 sacks, 10 sacks, or whatever against the Los Angeles Rams? And he was seeing ghosts out there. He was, hurried in the pocket.
It'd be interesting to see where he lands.
It's a fascinating conversation.
Yeah.
It's part of sports media. Hi, everybody. Thank you for watching this clip of the Harvey Hour. If you want to watch the full show, you can by clicking the eye in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to take the show with you on the go, it is available wherever you get your podcast. We go live here on YouTube every single Tuesday and Friday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, and the notification bell to get notified whenever we upload a video and whenever we go live.